from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. This is the Spit Sports Show, the most dominant World Junior team coming into the tournament, the most dominant World Junior team of all time in history. I'm talking about Canada goes down 3-2 to Latvia, a country in Eastern Europe with 1.8 million people as their population in a shootout. Okay. I have a lot of thoughts about this game. I have a lot of thoughts on Canada moving forward in this tournament, and I have a lot of thoughts about Canadian hockey in general and where it's going. And a lot of it's concerning, but it's not like the sky is falling for Canada. But it definitely felt like it was as soon as Latvia tucked in that game winning shootout goal, because the stat that boggled my mind after I looked up how historic this was this is only the second time ever when Canada has played Latvia that they haven't scored at least 10 goals. 10 goals. Double digits is expected in football. Triple digits is obviously expected in basketball. Double digits is not expected in hockey really at any level. So the fact that they'd only not done that twice against Latvia really boggled my mind and kind of put into context how shocking this overall game was. And listen, I want to give Latvia all of the credit in the world for this game. They are obviously much better than we expected them to be coming into this tournament. Although the US did handle them pretty convincingly 5-1 just the day after. But as I'm recording this podcast, actually, they're playing against Germany, and I think they just scored to make it 3-2. So they're pretty good. They're definitely not the drubs of the tournament anymore, or they aren't this year. And I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, because goodness gracious, he deserves it. But Lindars Feldbergs is what I'm gonna go with. Sorry, I can't do an accent. That's the best you're gonna get. He obviously played the game of his life in net for Latvia. 54 saves. And simply put, he had Canada mentally shook by the time that shootout came around. No Canada shooter really skated up to the goalie with much confidence to me. They all looked quite timid in their moves. They all looked like they were just shook by this brick wall that was in front of them for 60 minutes plus in this game. And listen, I can make all of the excuses that a typical Canadian fan would make because I felt them at the time, obviously. That's why I took a day to really, collect my emotions, because obviously I have a bunch of national pride, especially about this sport in particular for my country. Like, the refs were clearly more lenient towards Latvia, is probably the most objective way I could say it. Like, that call that gave Latvia the penalty, or the power play, I should say, to have the game tying goal at the end of the game. That was a bad call, flatly. I don't know exactly what they saw there. Um, and obviously, Canada outplayed them. Probably 9 times out of 10, they win that hockey game. But Canada's got some issues this tournament. There's no doubt about it. And the glaring one is their special teams in general. Obviously, their power play has been god awful. It's 2 for 12 so far in the tournament. It's at 17%, which, if you're a top tier World Juniors hockey team, you probably want that number to be somewhere in the high 20s, or maybe low 30s if you're like really, really good and you're playing against bad teams and you get the average up. But even more concerning than that is how undisciplined Canada has looked this entire tournament. They've got 18 minor penalties through 3 games. And these 3 games, only one of them is against a perennial World Junior top tier contender in Finland. When you're playing against Germany and Latvia, you would think that they would be able to maintain their composure and discipline a little bit better, which just is not good. And when you combine that with a terrible power play so far, you get issues. And Latvia was obviously able to capitalize on those issues. And an extension of the power play is obviously sustained offensive zone time, which Canada had bounds of in this game against Latvia. I couldn't find the exact stats for on ice time in the offensive zone for Canada versus Latvia. because simply put, the World Juniors are terrible at publishing their statistics. But I would say, just from what I watched, it was about 70-30, maybe 75-25 in terms of Canada possession in the offensive zone. And it was so disappointing because they really couldn't do anything with it. It felt like they were kept to the perimeter perfectly. Latvia played a great box whenever Canada did have a penalty, or a power play, I should say. I don't know why I've got those mixed up twice. That's really bad. Anyways, Latvia obviously played really good defense. And when you have a hot goalie like that, you really only need average defense to hold a team like that to not many goals. And the reason why it was so disappointing, though, in the immediate aftermath of this game was I thought Canada looked phenomenal against Finland for 60 minutes. I know that a lot of people complained about the second period and, parts of the first, that they weren't exactly on their A game, and it's a bad sign. But I thought against Finland, they were phenomenal. I thought they were moving the puck well. I thought the offensive zone pressure was good. I thought they were constantly setting screens on the goalie so they could get rebound chances. It felt like they were really playing for each other. And the biggest difference for me between that Finland game and that Latvia game is teamwork, passing, and just overall vision of the ice, specifically in the neutral zone. The amount of times in the Finland game, I saw Canada in their own zone make 2, 3 quick passes. They're in the offensive zone with possession. It was great. It looked like their systems were working. It looked like they were playing pretty free flowing. And when they got into the offensive zone, obviously they could show off their creativity and talent. But against Latvia, like, we don't have a Bedard or a McDavid this year, or someone who's a real game breaking forward. So someone needs to explain to me why these Canada forwards were so obsessed with carrying the puck from their own end into the offensive zone. Like, it felt like it happened every single time Canada got possession of the puck in their own zone, that one person was just trying to carry it through. It looked like Canada came into this game thinking it was going to be kind of a stat padding opportunity. As critical as that sounds, it's what it felt like, because they come into this game, they're obviously playing against Latvia. Like I told you guys before, they've been historically dominant against Latvia. It's not like these guys are perennial, World Juniors contenders for any sort of medal. We can just walk into this game, hopefully put up a couple of points, and by the end, we'll have 2 goals, 3 assists, blah, blah, blah. It felt like they were really trying to put up stats instead of going for a team victory. And that's really concerning, because that says a lot about the culture of this team. And listen, you bounce back and beat Germany, that's awesome. And I understand all of the circumstances that went into losing this game, besides the mental errors that were clearly made, and I think the selfish play. Like, you run into a hot goalie, um, like that, 9 times out of 10, you're just gonna lose. It happens all of the time. We've seen it in the NHL all of the time. We've seen Carey Price steal series. We've seen Vasilevsky steal series. Like, that's what they do from time to time. And this guy just had the best game of his life. I understand that, but the effort level and mentality that they should have had coming into that third period, when they could see that this was going to be a game, I just didn't see any next level aggressiveness. I didn't see them take that next step. I didn't see them set the tone early. Even though they were out shooting Latvia, it felt like it was very lackadaisical offensive zone play. It looked like they were hoping shots would go in instead of making shots go in, to me. Now, a team like Canada, who obviously came into this tournament with a massive ego, whether they'd admit it or not. If you come into this tournament as a Canada or a US or a Sweden, you obviously have some level of pride and ego that you should be able to take care of these teams pretty handedly. And even against the good teams, you should be able to take home the W, most of the time. So Canada getting this kick in the jaw by Latvia, I think it could be the best thing for them. I really do. Because when you come into this kind of environment, this international stage with these kids, and they put on the Canada jersey, it's hard for them not to just expect to win, just because they're Canada and you're not. But obviously, this game, if it didn't kill that mentality, nothing will. So they're going to come into this game, hopefully against the US on New Year's Eve, eagle-less, ready to play as a team, and ready to push the pace and capitalize on some of these special teams opportunities and not give the other team special team opportunities. Little corrections, because obviously this team is more than talented enough to take it home. And the US losing to Finland was obviously huge for Canada because they're still in control of their own destiny for winning their group, which would be good for seeding. And there's no reason to panic if you're Canada at this point because you're 2-1. The US dropped a game. You're fine. If Sweden was in your group, you might have issues, but you don't. So they're going to be okay for this tournament. But I am very concerned about the state of Hockey Canada moving forward, not just at the World Junior level, which obviously the US has had some unbelievable teams these past couple years. We know how great Finland was for a couple years. Sweden looks like they might be the best team in the tournament this year, and they've had years past. But just in general, when you look at these Four Nations rosters coming out, I could definitely argue, and probably would argue, Canada definitively has the third best roster. I think the US is far and away the best roster on paper just because of the goaltending advantage, and then I would give it to Sweden. Again, goaltending's huge, and Canada doesn't have a real goaltender that they can lean on for now or the future, it looks like. Like Bennington, I mean, he's just not a top 10 goalie at all by any comparisons. There's an argument he's top 15 for sure. I would have that debate, but like my point is the future of Hockey Canada is scary right now. It really is because not only are we not capitalizing on our opportunities at the World Juniors so far, we still might recover, but if you look at it as an overall scope, the dominance of Hockey Canada throughout the past 100 years pretty much, it's slowly coming to an end. The US has an obvious population and resources advantage. Sweden, the games become bigger there than ever. And these countries like Finland and Latvia, as I just like these Eastern European countries, they're only going to get better. They're only going to get better. And if there's a Canada Europe thing like it was in the World Cup a couple of years ago, I would obviously definitely lean towards Europe. I don't even think it's particularly close. Like I said, I think I'd take Sweden's roster straight up over Canada's right now in the Four Nations. So I'm concerned. I think there is obviously a great future for Team Canada in a lot of these tournaments just because of their top end talent. I mean, McDavid, McKinnon, McCarr, those guys could win you a series or a gold medal game by themselves. There's no doubt about it. But overall depth, goaltending, all of that stuff, the prospect pool coming through the World Juniors, there are concerns to be had. But as for this tournament, I think Canada will be just fine. This New Year's Eve game, though, against the US, first time since I want to say 2016 they've done this matchup on New Year's. That's a huge game because if they lose that, they should get out of their group. And they probably will, but there is that little nugget that they might not. And even if they do get out of their group, US is probably going to be number one, and you might have to play Sweden in the quarterfinals. So big game for Canada on New Year's. It's not time to panic yet, but please let me know what you guys think. Am I crazy? If you enjoyed what you heard today, please leave a like on the video. If you didn't enjoy what you heard, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought, what I said that you disagreed with, so we can have a conversation about it. I obviously love talking about sports, so let's do that in the comments section. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Spit Sports, we're just hit over 380 subscribers, and I will see you all in the next. Peace out.